festival. You are listening to SGFR, podcast radio for the festival. Now broadcasting highlights and top picks, your tasty, tantalizing tease for this coming year.
Hey everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I can't tell you how much joy this is bringing me. Kat has been waiting patiently to come and share their amazing insight. Kat has history running board games groups in previous organization. And if there's somebody with a almost encyclopedic knowledge that I would go to for information, it is Kat. Kat, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
And
I'd go to SAS, I think.
I also go to SAS as well, and I also go to Laura, but I also go to
I
you,
don't
Kat.
compare to Sass and Kat. My knowledge is very limited.
I mean, Kat's here specifically to talk about social deduction games and maybe, if we can, also some co-op games. But out of curiosity, Kat, how many games do you actually have?
I've just sold a bunch because I had to downsize when I moved house, so I've really only got around 200 right now.
Only 200.
I sold a good
Only
chunk.
200 board games.
Yeah,
I mean,
around that.
Wow.
And you downsized to around 200. I emphasize that.
I've been hitting all the bring and buy sales, in charity shops, getting rid of some old ones. And I've run out of space, but there's a few games I really want to buy. So I'm just wondering if I can buy them without.
I was just picturing you sitting on some sort of throne of board games because you run out of space. You have to get rid of all your furniture.
Honestly, it's kind of like that. I do
Make
have
furniture
games.
out of boxes.
I do have games under my chair, but it's fine.
Right, no, please. I've been holding on to this joke for so long. Less of a Game of Thrones, more of a Throne of Games.
I actually sold my copy of Game of Thrones recently.
Yeah. That could have been the seating part of your throne made of games.
I was going to say, I would personally like to hear about your storage system.
Some of us have a similar issue of space in their flats.
I've just got some shelves, just regular, kind of bookcase-like shelves that I've somehow managed to fit all my games into. Well, not all of them, most of them. Though I do have to keep if you ever see me at any of the board game events by Brighton, you'll see I have a massive bag of board games. And the reason is I've run out of space and I have to store games in my board game bag.
Yes.
Nice.
To put it in perspective, everybody, the Strange Games Festival Library, I think I might get this wrong. I understand it has something like 600 titles in, but we have the advantage of having Laura with us, and she keeps the database of games. Laura, may I ask, how many games are in the Strange Games Festival Library?
Yes, I am just hurriedly trying to pull up the spreadsheet, and I'll get you the precise answer momentarily.
Well, whilst you do that, there's another group that I'm involved in, but I may not be for long because of court case, and they share dad jokes, and apparently the best place to store a dad joke is in a database.
Get a dice.
That was good, wasn't it?
It was something.
Tons to my section of the talking.
I did make a nomination to the database, which is when do you know a joke is a dad joke?
When it becomes apparent.
Yes, well done, James. When I grow up, I want to be just like you.
James.
Do you know how I know the answer to that? Because I was literally about to say that exact joke.
So the answer, Andy, is that we have 537 games in the Strange Games library currently, but that doesn't include the 15 extra copies of Anomia that Simon's hoarding all to himself.
He doesn't like Anomia.
Because he loves Anomia so much.
He hates it. And actually, it's a rubbish game.
It's a great game.
It's crap. It's not very good at all.
I actually have Anomia, and I'm really bad at games like that.
Is that because every now and again you meet some people you don't like? And
No, I'm just really bad at words. I don't know why I'm here, I'll be honest.
Social Deduction, I believe, is why you're here, and it's the social deduction that you're going to tell us about is now been there's a kind of element of tension because as we've previously established on, I imagine, a different episode, Jess, who's here, hates social deduction and all who play. Everyone who plays it, she also hates.
Listen.
And it's now your job to try and win her over.
Listen, every time I go to board game night, somebody wants to play Avalon with me, and I just rage.
I would too. I have to be in the right mood for a social deduction game.
Yeah.
When I first started doing board games very, very long time ago, I also didn't quite like them. And I think over time they've grown on me after when I first started playing board games, I played in my university sort of board game, war game, role playing game club. And we didn't have many games available to us. We had like a tiny board game cupboard and like whatever people brought. And a lot of people just getting into board games. But like one person had Avalon and we just play it every week. And as like sometimes the only game like available. And so I've gotten much more comfortable at it over time.
Is that why? Is that the secret for liking social deduction games? By overexposure, it's like licorice. If you eat too much of it, you end up addicted. Is that what happened?
Still don't like licorice, so I wouldn't know. But I'm not sure. I think there's more social deduction board games other than the ones that like Avalon or Secret Hitler or games like that. I think I was going to talk to you about was BSG, which has that sort of traitor mechanic, but it's got this whole board game going on at the same time. And I think if people don't like social deduction board games, they should possibly try something with like a board game with a traitor mechanic where you still kind of have an entire game going on, but you also might have like a secret objective, whether that's something like Dead of Winter, where you might have like a secret objective that goes against other players, or something like BSG, where you're a Cylon, you have to sabotage the missions.
And the step before that, I guess, would be something like Betrayal at House on the Hill, where you get used to betraying people, but you don't. It's not done in secret, so you're playing as a cooperative for most of the game, and then you suddenly get the choice to, well, you are obliged to be a traitor, and you get to enjoy the thrill of stabbing everyone in the back.
Yeah, there's also kind of games like Nemesis and Dead of Winter, where there's an option to be a traitor, but you don't have to take it. I think both those games, you might have an option of either being the traitor or not being the traitor on like a certain secret objective card, or sabotaging someone else's mission. And you can choose either. So if you're not as comfortable with the sort of lying and lying part of it, you can just try play fully cooperative, but there's always that notion that there could be a traitor.
And those are the kind of commonalities, isn't it? The traitor mechanic and the need to be able to lie.
I know, I've met a lot of people who can't lie very well, who still play social deduction games.
Yeah, I definitely can't. I'll tell a quick story, if I may, about the game Resistance, which is a similar kind of social deduction game where you set up the scenario of people who go along on a mission, some of whom secretly want to sabotage the mission. And playing that with my cousins and some other members of my family taught me two clear things. One, I cannot lie. I am terrible at it. And the other is
the other thing that you like big butts.
That's very funny.
Sorry.
And the other is that is that my niece, my godniece.
I'm so sorry. I really tickled myself. Carry on. Sorry.
You realise that's probably the highlight of all the episodes we've ever recorded and will ever record. But it was funny. I accept that. The other
we've
thing,
still got Frank's limerick to come. That's going to be the highlight.
I know,
Oh,
Frank's been
yes.
so quiet, and I'm really hoping it's because he's writing away.
It is. I have a list of words. I'm currently trying to find rhymes for Atuin.
Oh wow!
Jesus, man.
Atuin, if Frank delivers his limerick in this episode, is because we spoke with Frank very recently about Discworld, and Atuin is the name of the star turtle that the flat world rides on top of.
More importantly, we've tasked him with writing a limerick explaining what the Discworld is.
Actually, I had this image that instead of trying to compose the limerick, Frank was just rocking gently in a fetal position in the corner. I guess.
I have just been crying. That's
What about ruin?
Sorry, what was that?
Ruin. I'm thinking of words that rhyme.
With a 2 in, ruin.
Yeah.
Kat, can we please come back to you talking about social deduction games and traitor mechanics and the attraction for you to it and what might attract Jess to it?
I think some people will just never like them. And maybe Jess is one of those people.
You know, I think you just have to. I think I'm just not very good at them, so I get very annoyed. But I think if you're good at them, then maybe it becomes more addictive to play.
It took me a while of playing to become comfortable with them, and now I sort of play a lot of Werewolf and Blood on the Clock Tower as well.
Nice.
I'm gonna confess here that I am not a fan of social deduction games myself, but for a very different reason. Because I think I'm generally quite good at reading people and also sometimes lying. But the reason I dislike them is whenever I've been involved in a game and I've just been like a normal, non-evil person, people just naturally mistrust me because I'm just a fun, loud, jokey person, and they go, "Oh, well, he must be evil then."
You're suspicious.
And I'm like, but like,
Are we still talking about the game here?
well, exactly. That's my point. All it does when I go there is go, but people just don't trust me because I'm nice and fun and loud, and that just makes me feel rubbish about myself. Whereas if you know me, I'm. If I am the bad guy, I will shut up and not say a word.
James, by the way, is pure as the driven snow. And for anyone who's driven in snow, you know exactly what I mean.
Sorry, I groaned too early then because I've heard that joke before.
For anyone who's interested, a long time ago, when I first started recording these podcasts, I did a live recording in a session of Werewolf at one of the festivals. Me and Alexi, who is, amongst other things, a rather marvelous DM as well. And we sat there. I was a villager, an innocent farmer, and they didn't trust me. So I got burnt to a crisp. But we did get some nice audio out of it.
And why didn't they trust you, Anne?
I don't know.
It's because you were sitting muttering into your microphone the whole game.
Well, yes, basically. And I will say that my experience of that particular social deduction game was heart-poundingly exciting. It was really quite nerve-wracking to get involved and to try and defend myself in the kind of trial of public reputation. And then they burnt me to a crisp.
I was just going to say, I'm just far too sensitive and would take it very personally.
That's what I think. I think we're just both very sensitive. And
we both have rejection issues.
Yeah.
Whereas I have a heart of stone. So it doesn't bother me as much these days. I think I am quite easily able to separate sort of what goes on in a social deduction game with like what goes on out of it. And I know some people kind of can take kind of some of the arguing and yelling that goes on personally. I think some people it can be difficult for people if like kind of you're getting insulted for one reason or another. And sometimes it might cross the line. So it's really good to have a kind of good group where that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I do imagine that if you have a group of people that you know and you trust, I imagine that it would solve a lot of problems.
The other version of games that might suit people who are struggling in that capacity is the 5-minute game. So one night werewolf and things like that. Because I actually only really enjoy social deduction when I'm solving the mystery. I don't really enjoy being the baddie. But with a 5-minute one night werewolf, you get through so many games that I accept the cost of being a baddie in order to play the fun detective, and the fact that it goes over in 5 minutes means that it's you can rinse and repeat, and it doesn't feel quite so intense when you get told that you're a baddie.
Yeah, less triggering as well, less drawn out trauma.
Yeah, I really like the long ones. I like sort of the long BSG games, and I like sort of multi-hour games of Werewolf with like 25 players.
What's the longest game you've played, Kat?
Frank can help me answer that. Do you remember what we played at the last Strange Games Festival, Frank?
Yeah.
We played Twilight Imperium.
Oh,
fantastic game.
Is that a social deduction game?
No, but that's the longest game I've played.
Oh, sorry.
That was a very long game.
Started at like 7 a.m.
Yeah. The longest.
And finished at what time?
Which month?
It finished. Actually, it didn't
Finished
finish.
at
It
about
specifically didn't finish.
3:30,
We ended up calling it at some point because
At what time?
that's the same day.
About 3:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
So I think longest.
8.5 hours.
Yeah, and that wasn't even finished. That was just when we called it.
That's like
Yeah.
a day's work.
It was.
But it wasn't work, surely. That's the point. This is supposed to be fun.
Yes.
It was an experience.
Yeah, it was. It was. Getting utterly demolished.
Moving back to social deduction, if I may, Kat, what's the longest social deduction game?
It kind of depends what you count as social deduction, because I think it might be something either like BSG or Unfathomable, which is very similar to BSG. It's kind of the very similar game, but rethemed because they couldn't the IP or something. They couldn't get it again. It's I'm not sure if you've played Unfathomable. It's
I haven't.
very similar to BSG, except you're cultists, or some people are cultists, and they've kind of streamlined some of the mechanics and made things, fix some of the issues that Battlestar Galactica, the board game, has.
Yeah.
Though I think I prefer the mechanics, but it's a lot of fun calling people a fucking toaster, which you can't quite do. And again, I've had games like Nemesis, which you have like the option to like betray people, but it's not necessarily the same thing as a traitor mechanic, because you can be quite open about the fact that you're trying to kill someone. I remember one time I just sort of locked someone in the room with the queen alien and then ran away. I think that was quite obvious.
I have a question. Well, it's a two-part question. One is, which games come to mind as an entrance to social deduction, and what title or titles would you say it's worth aspiring to once you get really used to them and into them?
I don't see why I have to wait before you go into the expert end, because the first social deduction game I played was Avalon. And I'm actually not the biggest fan of Avalon. I like it well enough, but I think I prefer Secret Hitler, and I think I prefer Feed the Kraken, which is kind of very similar. You're kind of on a little boat trying to get to whichever location is your team's location. But I don't see why you should wait to jump into something like BSG.
Fair enough. And do you have a preference? Do you prefer to be a traitor, or do you prefer to be one of the hero characters?
Depends on my mood. I do like. I think with games like Werewolf, being able to like think on my feet and trying to keep track of all the elaborate lies I've told, and often failing because I've had a bit too much to drink. But it's good fun to do both. But I also like games like Secret Hitler or Avalon, where you have to do a lot of deduction and try to work out these things have happened or these missions have failed. Who was on these missions? How can I deduce what everyone was? It kind of depends on my mood. I quite like doing both.
Are you one for leading social deduction games, or are you one for jumping in once someone else is running them?
I've moderated some games before, and I've run some games. Either's fine with me.
Yeah.
I think it can be quite fun to just sort of watch people and laugh while they all yell at each other.
My reason.
That's what reality TV is predicated on, right?
Lovely.
That's probably fair. My main reason for asking that is, assuming you are going to come to the camp out, which I hope you will, are you someone that we should all look to draw us into social deduction games, or in Jess's case, avoid like the plague?
One day.
Well, probably a bit of both. I'll likely moderate a game or two, but I probably won't be running them the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Probably for the best.
The festivals, both the festival and I imagine the camp out, will be a good opportunity because historically, I think social deduction, Werewolf in particular, was one of the kind of starter games that's there. Is that right, Laura? Does that tally?
Yeah, that's how it all began back in the very, very beginning.
In 1857.
The festival began as people playing, just some friends playing Werewolf, where we all came from.
That's brilliant, everybody. Thank you very much. And you know, what can I say? Come join us at either the camp out or the festival if you can get tickets. Tickets by now, by the time this go up, might actually be a bit of a premium. I know when we were recording this way back in February, the festival tickets were already limited, seriously limited. But if you can, come join us.
And if you do reach the point where tickets are sold out, do check out the Discord Looking for Tickets channel.
You've been listening to SGFR, the podcast radio channel for the Strange Games Festival.
This season's hosts have been James, Laura, Andy and Craig.
And if you'd like to come on the show, message us on the festival radio channel on the Strange Games Festival Discord server.